My wife pinned me to our bed, her eyes manic and gleaming. She held up a bottle of the same homemade herbal flour her best friend's parents had used. If she can get pregnant, so can I. Honey, it's time to work overtime. It all started when my millionaire wife loaned me out to her best friend to F off matchmaking pressure from her family. The plan went sideways when her parents drugged us both, forcing a situation that was irreversible. Now, not only has her best friend stolen a piece of my life, but she's also carrying my child. I tried to pack a bag and skip town, but my wife caught me, dragged me back, and threw me onto this very bed. The three of us were laughing around the dinner table in the cavernous villa. "Ethan, this short rib risotto is insane," Zoe Gallagher mumbled, her mouth full. "Perfectly creamy, the meat just falls off the bone. You've outdone yourself." Her beautiful face was stuffed, her cheeks puffed out like a greedy chipmunk. My wife, Chloe Vanderbilt, elegantly lifted a piece of flaky sea bass with her chopsticks. She shot a sidelong glance at her best friend next to me and said, "I swear all this food and it still can't shut your mouth. You're here every single day. Are you trying to steal my husband?" I nearly sprayed the soup I just sipped all over the table. Zoe, however, didn't even blush. She swallowed her food and shot back with incredible confidence. "Of course not. At most, I just kidnap him and make him my personal chef." Chloe immediately went into protective mode, pulling me closer to her side as if staking her claim. "Hey, he's my exclusive chef and my beloved husband. You want to kidnap him? Not a chance. You'll have to pay up." Watching them bicker back and forth, I couldn't help but smile. My mind drifted back to a month ago to a series of events more surreal than any novel. My name is Ethan Miller. I'm a man out of time carrying memories of a past life. After 20 years of striving in this world, I finally achieved the ultimate goal. I became a trophy husband. Everyone around us assumed I was just a stand-in, a substitute who bore a passing resemblance to Chloe's supposed old flame, the one that got away, Brendan Cole. When the so-called real deal Brendan showed up to confront me, I was mentally prepared to be kicked to the curb with my bags packed. But who could have predicted the twist? Turns out I was the one Chloe had a secret crush on back in college. Bremmel was just some random guy. When his scheme was exposed, he got desperate and tried to drug Chloe to force the issue. Naturally, my wife had him unceremoniously hauled off by the police, where he was now enjoying 3 square meals a day on the taxpayers' dime. During the weeks, Brendan was causing trouble. Chloe sent me to stay with her best friend, Zoe Gallagher, for my own safety. Before that, Zoe and I were barely acquaintances. She'd always been cold and aloof around me, radiating a don't talk to me vibe. I never would have guessed that beneath the Ice Queen exterior was a hardcore foodie and a total homebody. With a single meal, my cooking completely conquered her stomach. For the next few weeks, she treated me like a genie in a bottle, rattling off requests for everything from 5-course French dinners to authentic Japanese ramen. To her credit, she had a little bit of a conscience. Seeing how I was bored out of my mind under house arrest, she started spending her days with me, playing video games, binge-watching movies, and tearing apart cheesy reality TV shows. It was a relief to finally have someone to share a laugh with during those mind-numbing days. Once Brennan was locked up, I was free. But our home, once a sanctuary for just me and Chloe, now had a third permanent resident, Zoe. She latched onto our life like a shameless barnacle, showing up for every meal every day. Sometimes if she ate herself into a food coma, she wouldn't even leave. During the day, while Chloe was at the office, Zoe would commandeer the living room sofa, and we'd team up for online gaming sessions. When mealtime rolled around, I'd resign myself to my duties as head chef and cook for her. But the nights were the most ridiculous part. My wife, Chloe, was completely monopolized by her. Zoe didn't just shamelessly wedge her way into our master bedroom. She took over our king-size bed, calmly sleeping next to my wife as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The bad news, my wife was about to become someone else's. The good news, that someone else was a woman. My thoughts snapped back to the present. Zoe had put down her utensils, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Chloe. "I don't have to kidnap him, but can I just borrow him for a bit?" she asked, sidling up to Chloe and negotiating in earnest. "I promise I'll bring him back in one piece." Chloe raised an eyebrow, set down her fork, and looked at her ridiculous best friend with amusement. "All right, spill it. What do you need him for?" Zoe swallowed hard, a rare look of embarrassment creeping onto her face. "It's my parents. Well, actually, it's my pain-in-the-ass brother. He's a year younger than me and he's already married. Now my parents are on my case like debt collectors, nagging me nonstop. As she spoke, she pushed her plate away and slid onto the bench next to Chloe, grabbing her arm and shaking it as her voice turned impossibly sweet and pleading. Chloe, my bestest friend in the whole world. You lend me your husband to get them off my back for one night. Right. You know me. I'm a homebody just like you. All I do is eat and play games. I don't have any guy friends. Out of all the guys I know, he's the only one who's remotely presentable enough to bring home to my parents. Please let me borrow him. Pretty please. I watched her act, a shiver running down my spine. The woman could switch personalities faster than a traffic light. Chloe, clearly susceptible to this routine, sighed, but maintained a stern face, poking Zoe's forehead with a finger. Fine, you can borrow him. You can even pretend he's yours. Her tone shifted as her eyes landed on me, filled with an unyielding possessiveness. But you remember this. You bring him back to me, completely intact. Nothing on him can be missing. He is my property down to the last strand of hair. Got it. Zoe immediately sprang to her feet and stood at attention like a soldier receiving orders. Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Don't worry. I'd lose a limb before he lost a hair. I sat there through the whole exchange like a piece of furniture, unable to get a word in. What could I do? I was a kept man. The wife is always right. And since she'd already agreed, I had no room to object. And just like that, I was sold off by my own wife, becoming Zoe Gallagher's temporary boyfriend. Just as I was resigning myself to my fate, Chloe remembered something. Wait, my parents couldn't make it to our wedding. Your parents came with your brother. They've never actually met Ethan. Zoe winked a smug, all according to plan look on her face. My parents had an emergency that day. Sofa, they couldn't be there. They have no idea what your husband looks like. Don't worry, the coast is clear. When I'm in charge, you can relax. Only then did Chloe seem truly at ease, picking up her fork and elegantly resuming her meal. That afternoon, Chloe drove to her office, leaving the massive villa to me and the freeloader, Zoe. The relaxed atmosphere seemed to curdle the moment Chloe's car disappeared down the driveway. Zoe was sprawled on the couch, scrolling through her phone. Without looking up, she said, "Hey, you ready yet? Make yourself look handsome. My parents are already making dinner for you." I stood in front of the closet holding different shirts up to my reflection. "I'm not that handsome to begin with," I said with a sigh. "This is as good as it gets." Tisk tisk. She finally put down her phone and looked me up and down, a smirk playing on her lips. Excessive modesty is just another form of arrogance, you know. Oh, and remember to grab these. I already bought gifts from my parents. Picked them out myself. I hefted the gift boxes. They were heavy and my heart sank with them. This isn't real, you know. Why go to all this trouble? You're making me nervous. Zoe pushed herself off the door frame and walked toward me, a faint sweet fragrance wafting in her wake. Her eyes glittered with a sly fox-like cunning. "What if it becomes real?" she whispered, her voice low and teasing. "You have to be prepared for every possibility." Her breath ghosted across my cheek. My heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively took a small step back, laughing to cover my unease. If it becomes real, Chloe would probably chop me into little pieces. Then you'd have to rescue me and we'd have to go on the run together. I meant it as a joke, but Zoe slapped me on the shoulder, her eyes shining with alarming brightness. "Obviously, you be my boyfriend. I'd have to take responsibility." She lifted her chin and waved her hand with dramatic flair. "Let's go to our life on the lam." I drove Chloe's understated Porsche, my temporary girlfriend, in the passenger seat, heading toward what she called the Lion's Den. Zoe's family lived in an elegant, gated community. Her parents were far more welcoming than I'd imagined. Their faces wreathed in warm smiles with none of the arrogance I'd expected from a wealthy family. The moment I walked in, it sat me down. "Ethan, right? Please sit. Make yourself comfortable. Treat this like your own home," Zoe's mother said, pouring me tea while studying me with a smile. Her father was more direct. "So, Ethan, Zoe tells us you graduated from Stanford." My stomach clenched. "Showtime." I nodded, sticking to the script Zoe had given me. "Yes, sir, I did." I said this with confidence because it was all true, except for the part about me being a high school teacher. Wow. A top-tier education. Her parents exchanged a look, their smiles widening. "What did you study? And what does your family do?" My parents are both teachers. One in high school, one in middle school. Following their footsteps. I'm a high school teacher now, too. The line worked like a charm. Zoe's parents were beaming. Her mother slapped her thigh. A family of educators. Wonderful. That's just wonderful. Perfect for raising children. At the dinner table, I was treated like royalty. Zoe's mother kept piling food onto my plate until it was a small mountain. Her father engaged me in a lively conversation, discussing everything from educational philosophy to current events. "So, how did you two meet?" her mother asked out of the blue. I glanced at Zoe, who was completely absorbed in her food, offering zero assistance. I had to improvise. "Zoe and I met at a book club. I just thought she was special, very direct, not like other girls." I scrambled for words, tried to make the lie sound convincing. "And how long have you been dating?" "Almost a year." "So, what do you think of our Zoe?" I looked at Zoe's food-stuffed face and praised her through gritted teeth. "Zoe's amazing. She can seem a little childish sometimes, but she's actually incredibly sensitive and kind underneath it all." Zoe shot a look at me, her expression complicated. Then, she quickly looked down, pretending to choke on a piece of pork and coughing for a solid minute. By the end of the meal, I felt like I deserved an Oscar. The way Zoe's parents looked at me had transformed from inspecting a potential son-in-law to gazing upon their own son, their faces glowing with satisfaction. After dinner, her mother grabbed my hand warmly. "Ethan, dear, why don't you stay the night? We have a guest room." Before I could refuse, Zoe shot up from her seat. "Mom, no. He has an early meeting at school tomorrow. He has to get back." She was already pulling me toward the door. Her parents side-eyed, looking at their daughter's hopeless behavior. It wasn't until I was back in the car that I finally let out a long breath, my back soaked with sweat. On the way back to Chloe's villa, I couldn't resist glancing at the smugly satisfied Zoe in the passenger seat. So, was my performance up to par? Academy Award worthy, I'd say. The way your parents were looking at me, you'd think they wanted us to head straight to the courthouse and make it official. Zoe lounged back in her seat and gave me a thumbs up, a grin spreading across her face. "Yes. Yes, Mr. Best Actor. You've worked hard." Back at the villa, life as a trio continued. Chloe was still the domineering, possessive CEO, and I was still her exclusive chef orbiting her world. We'd still play games online and she'd still good-naturedly call me a total noob. A few days later at dinner, it was the same scene, the same delicious aroma of food. But Zoe was acting strangely. She hadn't touched her favorite dish, the sweet and sour pork ribs. She stared down at Chloe, then grabbed her arm and started shaking it, her voice sickeningly sweet. "Chloe, my dearest, bestest Chloe." Chloe, getting dizzy, shot her a weary look. "What is it now?" "Spit out." Zoe said with a placating smile. "That last time. Your husband was pretty useful, wasn't he? You know how fancy handbags come with after-sales service? Well, does your husband come with a service plan? Can I borrow him again?" I nearly choked on a mouthful of soup. Borrowing a husband comes with a service plan now. Chloe put down her fork, her brow furrowed as she looked at Zoe with suspicion. "What are you trying to pull this time?" "It's not me, it's my parents," Zoe said, her face a mask of grievance. "They're insisting on having a family dinner tomorrow night. My brother and his wife are coming. And they specifically said, I have to bring you." She pointed at me. I tried to say no, but they wouldn't hear it. "They're dead set on you." They said they were very satisfied with their new son-in-law. Chloe's gaze flickered between the two of us as if assessing the risk. Finally, unable to withstand Zoe's pleading, she sighed and relented. Fine, you win. Same rules as last time. You hear me?" She pointed a finger in my chest. "Then it's Zoe. Bring him back in one piece. If he's missing a single hair, you and I are through." The second time we prepared to go to Zoe's, I instinctively went to check the trunk for gifts. No gifts this time. I asked Zoe, who was hurrying me into the car. She waved her hand dismissively. "Nah, it's just a family dinner. No need. Let's go. Just make sure your face is in order." Seeing how relaxed she was, the flicker of unease in my gut subsided. The car pulled smoothly into the driveway of the Gallagher villa. Her parents greeted us with the same warmth. But when we stepped into the living room, her brother and sister-in-law were nowhere to be seen. It was just her parents sitting there smiling at us. Zoe froze, looking around in bewilderment. "Where are my brother and his wife?" Her mother came forward and took her arm. Her tone perfectly casual. "Oh, honey, your brother had an emergency at the office. His wife went with him. They couldn't make it. Well, we were already here. We couldn't just turn around and leave." Zoe's father was already beaming, ushering me to a seat as plates of food quickly filled the table. He then turned to an ornate antique cabinet and carefully brought out a semi-translucent glass decanter. He broke the red wax seal. A heavy pungent medicinal smell mixed with the sharp aroma of alcohol instantly filled the dining room. "Ethan," he said, enthusiastically pouring me a full glass. The amber liquid looked thick and viscous under the light. "This is a special reserve your father-in-law has been aging for over a decade. I wouldn't have opened it for anyone but you. Tonight, we're not stopping until one of us is under the table." My stomach dropped. This felt wrong. I leaned in, tried to peer into the decanter. One look was all it took for the hair on my arms to stand on end. I saw ginseng, goji berries, and what looked like dried sea cucumber. But what was that stuff settled at the bottom? Horny goat weed, deer antler, and other things I couldn't and didn't want to identify. This wasn't just wine. It was a goddamn witch's brew of every folk remedy aphrodisiac known to man. I understood instantly. This wasn't a family dinner. It was an ambush. And the goal was to get me wasted on this potion. But Mr. Gallagher was already holding the glass out to me, his warm smile leaving no room for refusal. What could I do? Telling the drink was too potent and I couldn't handle it. That would be a massive insult. I forced a stiff smile and took the glass. "You're too kind, sir." "It would be my honor." One sip and a line of fire burned its way from my throat to my stomach. An odd heat began to radiate through my entire body. "Come on, Ethan. You can't just drink. Eat. Eat." Zoe's mother began piling food onto my plate with a cheerful smile, moving so fast I had no chance to object. A platter of plump, glistening oysters landed in my bowl. These were flown and fresh this morning. A young man like he needs to eat plenty of these. Next came a dish of braised venison. The deer is from our own private farm, butchered this morning. Very potent. Then came stir-fried lamb, leeks with scrambled eggs. Her father toasted me glass after glass while her mother relentlessly refilled my plate with special ingredients. They worked in perfect seamless tandem. One pouring drinks, the other serving food. Their hospitality so intense it was suffocating. Before long, my head started to feel heavy. My consciousness grew fuzzy, and my vision began to double. My entire body felt like it was on fire, an unbearable, restless heat. "Sir, ma'am, I'm sorry," I said, leaning on the table, my tongue feeling thick. "I think I'm a little drunk. I'm feeling really hot. I think I need to go lie down." It was my last distress signal. Zoe seemed to notice something was wrong. She put down her fork, frowning. "Dad, Mom, stop pushing him. He really doesn't look well. I'll take him to a room to rest." She started to get up to help me. "Oh, what's the rush, dear?" her mother said, pushing her back down and adding another large piece of meat to her plate. "You haven't finished eating. I know what a big appetite you have. Eat up." Meanwhile, her father raised his glass directly to Zoe. "Come on, sweetie. It's been ages since you and your old dad had a drink. Have one with me. Just one." Zoe was trapped, pinned down by her parents on either side. I watched in horror as her mother stood up, walked over to me with a sweet smile, and took my arm. All right. All right. Young people shouldn't push themselves. If you're drunk, you should rest." Her voice was gentle in my ear, but it sounded like the devil's whisper. "Let me help you to your room." Zoe's mother guided me, her arm soft, but firm, leaving no room for struggle. My head felt like it was filled with lead, the world spinning around me. I could barely make out that she was leading me to a room on the second floor. She pushed the door open. A light, sweet scent hit me. Not perfume, but the unique clean fragrance of a young woman, a mix of body wash and something intrinsically her own. "Here you are, Ethan. Get some rest." She helped me to the bed, and my body gave out, collapsing onto the soft mattress. The bed was near the window, and a cool night breeze brushed against my burning face, offering a fleeting moment of clarity. Lying there, I hazily surveyed the room. Pink wallpaper, a desk piled with stuffed animals and graphic novels. The air thick with that familiar sweet scent. Alarm bells screamed in my head. This was Zoe's room. I tried to sit up, but the fire inside me roared hotter. My limbs felt like wet noodles. I didn't even have the strength to lift a finger. Downstairs, Mr. Gallagher was still enthusiastically plying his daughter with alcohol. "Come on, Zoe. It's been too long. Just one drink with your dad." Zoe was a complete lightweight, the type to be knocked out by a single glass. Under the influence of that monstrous brew, she stood no chance. She was soon dizzy and flushed, her face a deep crimson. A short while later, the bedroom door opened again. Zoe's mother entered, supporting her daughter, who was stumbling unsteadily. Mom, I'm so dizzy. Zoe's voice was thick and nasal, soft and whiny, like a child's. If you're dizzy, you should get some rest. Her mother cooed, her voice impossibly gentle as she helped Zoe to the bed. Just as Zoe was about to lie down, her mother seemed to remember something. She pulled a small white pill bottle from her pocket and tipped a single black pill in her hand. Here, take this. It'll help with the hangover so you don't have a headache tomorrow. In the dim light, I couldn't see Zoe's expression, but I heard her grateful, mumbled reply, "You're the best, Mom." Without a hint of suspicion, she took the pill and swallowed it dry. Then she staggered to the other side of the bed, the side closer to the door. Without even turning on a light, she collapsed onto the mattress with a sigh of satisfaction. Zoe's mother looked at the two of us lying on the bed, a triumphant smile on her face. She backed out of the room silently. Click! The soft metallic sound of a key turning in a lock. Then from outside the door, I heard her hushed, excited whisper barely audible. A done deal. Now let's see you two try not to get married. The breeze from the window cleared a fraction of my chaotic thoughts, but the fire in my body only intensified. My rational mind screamed at me to get out of there, but my body was bewitched, burning with an unbearable heat and an indescribable emptiness spreading from my bones. I was screwed. Beside me, Zoe was also starting to change. Whatever she had swallowed was no hangover cure. It was clearly something far more potent than the wine I'd drunk. She began to toss and turn, muttering restlessly, her body temperature rising rapidly. In the darkness, I could hear the rustle of her tearing at her clothes. Her sweet scent, now mixed with her feverish heat, became the ultimate catalyst, eroding the last of my crumbling sanity. She seemed to be searching for something cool to relieve the burning sensation, her hands fumbling blindly across the bed, and then her searing hot body pressed right up against mine. The morning sun sliced through a gap in the curtains, dancing on my eyelids. My head was splitting, the hangover leaving me in a fog. I was vaguely aware of holding something warm and soft, a familiar sweet scent filling my senses. It wasn't Chloe's. I snapped my eyes open. The first thing I saw was Zoe's face, inches from mine. Her long lashes fluttered, her brow furrowed in her sleep, and we were both naked, tangled together. My brain shut down. In that same instant, she woke up. Her beautiful eyes went from confused to horrified in less than a second. A scream shattered the morning calm. It was followed by a sharp smack. My left cheek exploded in pain. The slap stunned me. Before I could even begin to explain, she had scrambled into a sitting position, frantically pulling the comforter around herself. But she moved too fast. A sharp pain for between her legs made her gasp, her face contorting in agony. My gaze, against my will, fell to the bed sheets beneath us. On the white cotton, a few damning crimson blossoms bloomed like winter plums in the snow. A stark testament to what had happened last night. We were so screwed. The silence in the room was absolute. I could hear my own heart hammering against my ribs. I opened my mouth, but my throat was too dry to make a sound. It was Zoe who spoke first. Her voice choked with tears, but edged with an unshakable resolve. "Ethan Miller, you're going to take responsibility for this." She stared at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "And for now, Chloe can absolutely not find out about this." My mind was a chaotic mess. I could only nod numbly. Okay. I'll take responsibility. I will. Did I have a choice? I was still in her house. For all I knew, her parents, who had no qualms about drugging their own daughter to get a grandchild, wouldn't hesitate to bury me in the rose garden if I said no. We dressed in a clumsy, panicked haste, like two teenagers caught in the act. When we went downstairs, her parents were already at the breakfast table, watching us with an unnervingly benevolent gaze. They looked like artists admiring a finished masterpiece. "You're awake. Come have some breakfast. I made you both some porridge," her mother said with a serene smile. The anger Zoe had been suppressing all morning finally erupted. She slammed her hand on the table and hissed at her parents. "What kind of parents are you drugging your own daughter?" They, however, were completely unfazed, simply smiling and serving us porridge as if nothing had happened. I couldn't swallow a single bite of that agonizingly awkward breakfast. When we got back to Chloe's villa, everything had changed. If Zoe had been a frequent freeloader before, she was now the semi-permanent lady of the house. She wasn't leaving. The dynamic between us had become incredibly fragile. That afternoon, we sat in stony silence, deliberately keeping our distance. Yet, our eyes would inevitably meet. Hers were filled with a mixture of shame, resentment, and something else I couldn't quite decipher. Every time our gazes locked, it was like a jolt of electricity, crackling with a dangerous heat. My mind was in turmoil. I retreated to the kitchen to start on dinner, hoping the rhythmic chop of the knife could drown out the chaos in my head. But I knew this was only the beginning. I managed to hold on to one last shred of decency, ensuring nothing more happened between us and Chloe's own home. But I knew with sickening certainty that an unbreakable thread now bound us together. And the other end of that thread was still attached to a blissfully unaware Chloe. A month passed. A month spent walking a tightrope over a bottomless chasm with no balancing pole in sight. Zoe had brazenly moved into the villa, treating it as her own home. The dynamic between the three of us grew stranger by the day. During the day, she and I would still sit in the living room and play video games, but the easy banter and playful insults were gone, replaced by a suffocating silence. The air was thick with an invisible tension. We tiptoed around each other, maintaining a fragile peace, neither of us daring to light the fuse. And I was still the exclusive chef, though the joy of cooking had been replaced by annoying anxiety. That night, I made a huge spread as usual. The three of us sat down to eat. Chloe gracefully sampled each dish while I listlessly pushed rice around my bowl. Zoe, however, was acting strangely. Her favorite sweet and sour pork ribs were right in front of her, but she hadn't touched them. She just stared at her bowl, her face pale, poking at her food with her chopsticks. Suddenly, she clapped a hand over her mouth as a wave of nausea hit her. Wretch! A dry heave shattered the eerie quiet at the table. She didn't throw anything up, just coughed violently, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. Chloe immediately put down her fork and rushed to her side, gently patting her back. Zoe, are you okay? Did you eat something bad? She frowned. Wait a minute. You were like this all day when we were out shopping. You kept saying you felt sick. Are you ill? After dinner, I'm taking you to the doctor to get checked out. To the doctor? Those 3 words hit me like a bolt of lightning. A chill ran down my spine and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Oh no, was the only thought in my head. Did we hit the jackpot? No. Chloe absolutely could not take her to the doctor. My mind raced and I blurted out the first excuse I could think of. Chloe, why don't I take her? My voice was Rosero. Don't you have that report to finish for work? You shouldn't get behind. The moment the words left my mouth, Chloe's face darkened. She turned to me, her sharp eyes pinning me in place, filled with annoyance and suspicion. I finally have a few days off. And you're trying to send me back to work? Her tone was icy, stabbing at me. Besides, you taking Zoe, a guy, taking a girl, for a checkup? Is that appropriate? A sarcastic smile twisted her lips and she delivered the line that sent me into a free fall. It's not like you're her boyfriend. My heart seized as if squeezed by an invisible hand. I couldn't breathe. Her unyielding tone left me paralyzed, unable to utter a single word of protest. I could only watch as she helped Zoe to her feet, her voice firm. Come on, Zoe. Ignore him. I'm taking you. She half supported, half led Zoe out of the dining room. I stood frozen, listening to the front door open and close. The engine started the car drive away. When the last sound faded into the night, the massive villa plunged into a dead silence. It was a silence that felt like a net, trapping me, filling me with a panic I had never known. I sat at the table, staring at the cooling food. My mind a complete disaster. After what felt like an eternity, one word screamed through my head. Run. The thought consumed me, blotting out everything else. Yes, run. Skip town. Now, while they were gone, I'd lay low, wait for the storm to pass. Maybe when Chloe calmed down, or when Zoe explained everything, I could come back. I shot up from my chair and scrambled upstairs to our room. I yanked open the closet, stuffing clothes haphazardly into a backpack, then grabbed my passport and all my credit cards from a drawer. I had to leave now. I didn't dare take a car, knowing Chloe could track the license plate. My only option was my own 2 feet, running as fast as I could through this ridiculously oversized gated community. My mind was stuck on a single terrifying image. Chloe holding a lab report, staring at me with a deadpan expression, asking me to explain myself. I dragged my suitcase behind me, my legs pumping as I sprinted toward the main gate of the community. Damn it! Who designs these neighborhoods to be so huge? I cursed under my breath. The wheels of the suitcase rumbled on the smooth asphalt, a sound that was deafeningly loud in the quiet night. My lungs burned and sweat stung my eyes. This stuff was heavy. I was exhausted. Finally, the ornate iron gates of the community came into view. A surge of hope spurred me on. Just then, 2 blinding beams of light cut through the darkness, aimed directly at me. A car I knew all too well. It executed an impossibly aggressive drift. The tires screaming in protest and came to a perfect sideways stop right in front of me, blocking my only escape route. The driver's door swung open. Chloe stepped out. She didn't even look at me. She strode over. Her beautiful face a mask of ice. Her eyes as cold as a Siberian winter. The sight of her turned my blood to slush. My stuff. I stammered, trying to make a last stand for my luggage. I'll have the security guard bring it back to the house later. She cut me off. She grabbed my wrist, her grip so tight, I thought she might snap the bone. Right now, we have more important things to discuss. She dragged me back to the car and shoved me inside. The door slammed shut, separating me from my suitcase and my only hope of freedom. Back at the villa, she didn't say a word. Just hauled me up the stairs and into her bedroom. She kicked the door shut with her heel. With a powerful shove, she sent me tumbling onto the vast soft bed. Before I could process what was happening, a warm soft body was on top of me. Chloe was straddling me, looking down at me, her gorgeous eyes swirling with a complex storm of emotions I couldn't begin to name. She leaned in close, her warm breath on my face, but her words were like shards of ice. Ethan Miller, you really are something else. Making a baby without even telling me. My mind went blank. She knew. She really knew. Her fingers traced the line of my jaw. Her voice laced with a cool, dangerous amusement. So tell me, while I was out of the house, were you two getting busy in my villa? No, I yelled, my voice cracking. Chloe, please listen to me. It never happened here. I swear it was an accident. A total accident. I was a condemned man, desperately pleading my case before the judge. Chloe looked at my panicked state and suddenly smiled. But it wasn't the furious, murderous smile I'd expected. It was a smile of knowing, of seeing right through everything. Of course I know it was an accident, she said nonchalantly. The word stunned me into silence. If you had done it on purpose, she continued, her voice dropping, I would have already had you neutered. Not a trace left. I hadn't even had a chance to breathe a sigh of relief before her expression hardened again. Her grip on my chin tightened painfully. But you, instead of staying here to explain yourself, you tried to run. Before I could even recover from the sheer terror of her neutered comment, her fingers tightened on my chin. A strange fire I'd never seen before ignited in her eyes. It wasn't anger. It was the fierce, unyielding flame of competition. I can't accept this, Chloe whispered, her voice low and dangerous. A thunderclap next to my ear. My husband, I haven't even gotten pregnant by him yet. And that little foodie beat me to it. She leaned down until her noses were almost touching. Her warm breath mixed with the cool scent of her perfume was a fatal combination. No, this won't do. Tonight, we're getting pregnant. My brain short-circuited. What was happening? Shouldn't the main issue be my catastrophic mistake? How did this turn into a competition? My survival instinct kicked in. I tried to struggle, planting my hands on the mattress to push her off, to reclaim some semblance of control. Chloe, listen to me. This is no more talking. She cut me off. Time for doing. Her weight pressed down and my pathetic strength was no match for her. Even so, I had to try for the last shreds of my masculine pride. I won't be on top. I grit out the words squeezed from my throat. It's a matter of a man's basic dignity. Chloe stared at my pathetic, blustering attempt at defiance. She blinked. Then a playful smirk spread across her lips. To my astonishment, she actually rolled off me, propping herself up on one elbow as she lay on her side, watching me with an amused expression that said, all right, big shot. Let's see what you've got. I took a deep breath and flipped over, pinning her beneath me. An hour later, I collapsed beside her, every muscle and joint in my body, screaming in protest. Never mind, Chloe, I rasped, my voice in pleading. You could be on top. Chloe let out a soft laugh and gracefully reclaimed her dominant position. That night, I could truly learn the meaning of the term overwhelming firepower. The next day, I woke up because I was starving and because my entire body felt like it had been run over by a freight train. Repeatedly, my lower back, in particular, no longer felt like it belonged to me. I clung to the wall as I hobbled downstairs, feeling hollowed out and weak. Just as I reached the living room, the front door was unlocked from the outside. Zoe walked in. She saw me clutching my back, my face pale, and merely raised an eyebrow. Her gaze then drifted past me to Chloe, who was descending the stairs with serene grace. Zoe didn't try to be cute or funny today. She walked to the center of the living room and stood her ground as if making an official declaration. What's done is done. Ethan has to take responsibility for my child. Her eyes shifted to Chloe and a smile touched her lips. It was a smile filled with provocation, triumph, and a twisted sort of intimacy. Well, Chloe, isn't this great? Now we can be even closer, sisters. Chloe had reached my side. She wrapped an arm around my aching waist, pulling me into her before finally looking up at Zoe, her eyes like chips of ice. Responsibility? How? By marrying you. Oh, that won't be necessary, Zoe said, shaking her head. I have no intention of breaking up your marriage. But the baby is mine, which means the baby's father has to be a part of my baby's life. The air froze. I was trapped between them, a piece of meat on a cutting board while they debated how best to carve me up. Chloe's eyes narrowed into dangerous slits, the cold light in them sharp enough to cause frostbite. What are you trying to say? My meaning is simple, Zoe said, not backing down an inch as she met Chloe's gaze. Her words were slow and deliberate. Ethan needs to be a father to his child. What followed was the most surreal scene of my 20-plus years in this life. The two of them, like corporate lawyers hammering out a merger, began to calmly and fiercely negotiate the terms of my existence, treating me like a high-value asset whose ownership and usage rights had to be clearly defined. I am the legally wedded wife, Chloe stated, drawing the first non-negotiable line in the sand. Zoe just shrugged, not bothering to argue the point. She had the ultimate trump card, the baby. She wasn't after a title. She was after tangible benefits. She crossed her arms and got down to the core terms. Chloe considered for a moment, then delivered a chillingly pragmatic proposal. I'm not unreasonable. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, he's with me. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, he could be with your child. And since you're not the marrying type anyway, you can use him as a shield against your parents whenever you need to. I listened, my eyelids twitching. They made a schedule for me, a goddamn timeshare. What about Sundays? Zoe immediately pounced on a loophole. Chloe and Zoe locked eyes. For a moment, sparks seemed to fly between them. Then, in perfect chilling unison, they both said the same thing. Family dinner to satisfy your foodie cravings. And with that, the peace treaty was signed. I, Ethan Miller, was officially promoted from being one woman's exclusive chef and husband to being two women's shared chef. Zoe left completely satisfied, shooting me a "you'd better behave" look on her way out. The vast villa was once again empty, save for me, Chloe, and my broken back. As night fell, it was time for tonight's majority shareholder, Chloe, to exercise her rights. She pushed me onto the great bed in our master bedroom, a bed we once shared exclusively. Before I could even begin to mourn my impending doom, a warm, soft body was on top of mine. She straddled me, leaning down, her beautiful eyes burning with a fire I didn't understand, but which terrified me to my core. It wasn't anger. It was the thrill of the hunt. "Honey," she breathed, her voice soft and seductive, making the hair on my arm stand up. "Tonight, I'm going to feed you something special." My stomach dropped. I had a very bad feeling about this. I went and got the secret recipe, you know, she purred, winking playfully. I want to have a little Chloe on the first try. I can't let that foodie get the better of me. With that, she reached over and whipped the silk cloth off the bedside table. When I saw what was on it, my brain went into system failure. The familiar glass decanter, reeking of potent herbs, the massive platter of plump, glistening oysters, the dish of dark, saucy venison. It was the exact same ambush meal Zoe's father had forced on me. History was repeating itself in the most horrifying way imaginable. Chloe picked up an oyster and held it to my lips, smiling like a cat that had cornered a canary. "Come on, honey, open up." I shook my head in terror, but she had me pinned and I couldn't move. She forced the cold, slimy oyster into my mouth, followed by a piece of innocent and then a large gulp of that monstrous lore. A familiar searing heat exploded in my stomach, racing through my limbs. I stared up at the ornate crystal chandelier on the ceiling and shed two silent, pathetic tears. I was done for. It was going to be another long, agonizing night. And tomorrow I was pretty sure my back wouldn't work at.